Mirá acá con la velocidad que viene un contenedor. Está aplastando gente. El auto ese se va.
A powerful storm has unleashed devastation across Sicily, flooding streets, tearing down trees and leaving thousands without power. The Mediterranean island knows its insane-shaking coast that transformed overnight into a scene of chaos and violent wind and relentless rain battered major including cities Palermo, Catania and Messina. The Italian Civil Protection Agency described the event as one of the most intense storms of the past decades. 1-hour rainfall exceeded monthly average, triggering flash flooding that submerged cars and homes. In Palermo, streets thrown into rivers, swept away vehicles and living piles in debris and wake. It was like a wall of water coming down off the hill, said local shop owner Marco Bianchi, whose business was destroyed. Footage shared on social media showed residents wading away the waist-deep water as emergency scene echoed across the city. Firefighters carried out over 500 rescue operations, pulling families from their stranded vehicles and flooded basements. School and public offices were closed and authority urged people to remain indoors. In Catania, heavy lightning storms illuminated the sky, while strong gusts exceeded 120 km/h. In Palermo, video footage showed bus floating down main boulevards and people wading through the waist-deep water in historic center. It felt like the city was drowning, said residents Guglielmo Marina, who Norway escalated to flooded Carnia Val di Roma. Emergency crew worked overnight to rescue more than 500 people, including families trapped in the apartment building and tourists stranded in a hotel. The airport of Catania temporarily suspended operations as runway flooded, while railway service across eastern Sicily were halted due to mudslides and debris covering the tracks. Authority also evacuated several villages and Mount Etna, where heavy rain triggered landslides and engulfed roads and damaged power lines, cutting the electricity to hundreds of homes. Meteorologists identified the cause of powerful the Mediterranean hurricane-like system formed over unusually warm sea water south of Italy. The storm brought record-breaking rainfall exceeded 200 mm in some areas within 20 hours, alongside gale force winds and intense lightning strikes. Palermo, the vibrant capital of the city, awaked the scene of devastation after one of the most violent storms in the recent memory battered the city overnight. Within a few short hours, torrential downpour and hurricane-force winds transformed the sun-drenched Mediterranean hub into the landscape of chaos and destruction. According to Italy's Civil Protection Department, the storm unleashed more than 115 mm of rain, equivalent of 2 months of precipitation, in less than 3 hours. The city as the drainage system dating back in the 19th century was quickly overwhelmed. Cars flooded through the flooded streets, traffic lights flickered out the entire neighborhood, including Partana, Oreta and Mandela, were cut off by rising water. Local authorities described the event as one in the century deluge. Major Roberto Lagalla urged residents to remain indoors and declared to municipality energy. "This is not a simple storm," he told reporters. "It is a climate disaster that has hit Palermo. It is unprecedented force." Videos circulated online captured the shocking moment when the lightning illuminated the city skyline. Meteorologists say the storm dumped over the 8 millimeters of rain in just 1 hour, nearly half of rain average monthly rainfall. Experts link the event of growing instability of the Mediterranean climate. Falling the water, sea temperatures, ice sheets, storms are becoming more frequent or more destructive, said Dr. Erin Tufari, a climatologist of the University of Bologna. Video shared online showed massive hailstorm pelting the streets while the residents sheltered the cafes and metro station. In the suburbs, strong winds on the roof from buildings and left thousands without electricity. Major Roberto Giuliani was called to the emergency assessment, warning that the Rome outdated drainage system can no longer handle such tropical-style weather patterns. The storm here reignite debates about the Italy preparedness for the climate extremes. As one resident wrote on social media, Rome is drawing not from the history but from the neglect.
Santa Sofia, 3 ottobre 2024, aggiornamento ore 18.
Meteorologists from the Italian Air Force Meteorological Center attributed the phenomenon of supercell storm. They explained it in a result from the sudden collisions between most air from the Tyrrhenian Sea and a cold front air masses moving south from the Central Europe. The constant created the perfect environment for the formation of giant hailstones, explained senior meteorologist Elena Moretti. Public transportation suffered severe disruption with the metro line E temporarily suspended due to flooding at multiple stations. Major artery roads in the city experienced severe traffic conditions, paralyzed urban function. Authority urged residents to avoid non-essential outing while drainage channels in the road continue to be clear. Experts warn this phenomenon is a part of concerned terrain. Climate analyst Dr. Paolo Rossi stated, these extreme weather events are not longer isolated occurrences, they are increasing in frequency and intensity, representing a direct sign of climate change impacting the Mediterranean basin. Amid the chaos, no fatalities were reported, though the several people sustained minor injuries from the flying debris. As a calm returned, Rome was reminded once again ever is timeless, beauty cannot escape the growing fury of nature.
Guardate ragazzi, guardate un po', ragazzi, sono un amico.
Several roads were closed and flash floods combined with a thick layer of hail turned into highway into slippery, impossible surface. The damage to agriculture is catastrophic. Vineyard in Veneto and orange in Madeira have suffered total losers, with the farmers estimated damage at over 200 million euros. Years to work destroyed in 20 minutes, said winemaker Matteo Galli. We have never seen such large hailstones. They punched holes in a metal roof. Meteorologists from Italy National Meteorological Agency explained that the intense collision of most Mediterranean air and the cold northern winds created a supercell, a rotating thunderstorm capable of producing giant hailstorm and a sudden gust of winds. The temperature dropped by more than 10 Celsius in less than an hour, shocking residents who were enduring a midsummer events. Hospitals in several provinces treated dozens of people, took cuts of berries from the broken glass and the ice. Fortunately, no deaths were reported, although local officials warning to such extreme weather events are becoming more common. Italy is becoming increasingly vulnerable to violent weather, say climatologist Dr. Lucia Ferrara. Rising sea temperatures in the Mediterranean are contributing to stronger and faster developing storms. At dawn, residents took to streets and found their streets covered in ice, cars damaged, windows broken and crews destroyed. For many Italians, it was a stark reminder of the growing instability of nature and warning for the storm to come. Hospitals reported on a sharp increase in important of the bureaus and the minor factories. Businesses, especially cafes and open-air markets, suffered significant losses of the sudden flood destroyed supplies to outdoor sitting areas. Farmers to the outcries and the city also serious losses, and a vineyard and olive groves were destroyed by the storm. Video quickly spread on social media showing hailstorm bouncing off incident capable of the flooding landmarks such as the Coliseum, shocking viewers around the world. Tourists caught on the storm described the experiences as apocalyptic. Climate experts warned that such extreme weather events are becoming more frequent in Italy, pointing out the former warmer seas contributed to the strong storm. As a cleanup efforts continue, Rome is telling the financial damage and reflection to the capital vulnerability to sudden climate shock. Hospitals reported an increase in administration while several schools closed after the roofs suffered structure damage. Rome's already overbundled infrastructure succumbed to onslaught. Metro Line A was temporarily suspended due to flooding, and thousands of homes were left without power. Insurers grabbed estimated the damage could reach tens of millions of euros, which vehicles a safe ground of outdoors have been the most affected. Farmers in Lazio also suffered losses of vegetables field and vineyard were hit by the flood. Agriculture Association described the event of the catastrophic blow and the height of the harvest season. Meteorologists linking the storm and wind of the most air and collided with the cold front conditions intensified by the expectation warm weather of the Mediterranean. This is a classic case of extreme weather amplified by climate change. Parts of the southern Italy are trying to recover from the torrential rain that caused a devastating flood in Sicily. Flooding cities, blocked roads, and leaving thousands of people without electricity. Officials have called the disaster a national emergency. Within hours, the streets of Palermo, Catania, and Messina turned into raging rivers that swept away cars and flooded the first floor to homes and businesses. The Italian Civil Protection Agency reported that more than 115 millimeters of rain fell in less than 20 hours, an amount that usually falls over several months. Local resident Maria Russo told reporters, "The water came so fast that in a matter of minutes my streets turned into river. We didn't have time to have anything." Emergency service rescue families standing on rooftops and firefighters walked throughout the night clearing debris and pumping water out of hospitals and schools. At least 20,000 households were left without power and many villages remain isolated after landslides blocked acid roads. Authorities confirmed several injuries, at least 3 deaths, although death toll could rise in such countries. Storm winds with the cyclone rotation around the lowland between Basilicata and Campania when it gets up to 100 km/h in the lower Tyrrhenian Sea. Sicilian, Ionian and Adriatic straits are the result of strong winds surge along the open coast. The situation is less critical in the West Mons basins and the Upper Tyrrhenian Sea, but weather is raging in Lazio, but not only there. Strong storms surge throughout the Italy and snow at the well low altitude. The sea is stormy off the coast of Ponza is the ferry connecting of the island Formia and the Marco of the waves. The ship brought to the Formia left on the hour late today. By evening it was still and the road can left Ponza at 3:13 p.m. It is expected to arrive Formia around 8:45 p.m. Rome, Italy was hit by unprecedented hailstorm, surprised and catching locals by tourists of God. The storm brought heavy rain, lightning and hailstorm the size of a golf ball caused damage of cars, homes and businesses. Witnesses reported hearing long bands of the hailstorm stuck roofs and windows. Many took to social media, share photos and video of severe storm, with some experienced disbelief of such weather could occur in a normally sunny sea. The Italian government has declared a state of emergency in the several regions, mobilized rescue workers and deployed to army to assist the evacuation efforts. Civil Protection Authority have urged people in the affected areas to remind cautions to need official warning to forecast in coming days. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni visited the affected areas and presented their solidarity with the victims and pledged government support to reconstruction efforts. This is a national emergency and we are working closely with the local authorities to ensure the safety of all residents, she said. Climate experts warn that such extreme weather events become more frequent due to climate change. Italy, with a varied geography, is particularly vulnerable in the affected changing weather patterns. The combination of heavy rainfall, property, maintained infrastructure, and urban explosion into flood-prone areas in exact button the impact of the recent storms. Italy is facing a major crisis after catastrophic floods swept through the parts of the country, with Sicily and Tuscany bearing the brunt of devastation. Torrential rain over the past week was causing rivers to overflow, triggering landslides, and left entire communities underwater. The flood, described as some of the worst in recent memory, have claimed lives, displaced thousands, and caused widespread damage to infrastructure and homes. In Sicily, the latest rainstorm had left widespread flooding across the urban and rural area alike. In the island capital Palermo, streets have turned into rivers, with the cars submerged and many residents forced to evacuate. Campania, another major city, has also been severely affected, with widespread damage reported in a historic center. The floods have overwhelmed the drainage system, leaving emergency services struggle to keep with the demand to rescue operations. Many people have been trapped in their homes and helicopters have been destroyed to relieve residents from isolated areas. Rome, Italy. In a ray of terrifying weather event, the Italian capital was struck by a sudden hailstorm that transformed in the city golden autumn in the scene in the destruction. The streets around the Colosseum, Piazza Navona, and vegetation were covered in a white blanket of torrent of water, ice flooding Rome in a matter of minutes. The hailstorms come almost without warning. First there was the light rain, and then bang, everything turned white. Recalled Luca Marina, a taxi driver who was stuck near a terminus station. Hailstones the size cone there, hitting by the white breeze so hard that I thought it would crack. The storm lasted just under 14 minutes, but its effect was severe. Trees were uprooted, dozens of cars were damaged, and several areas including San Giovanni and Trastevere experienced power outage. Emergency service reported for the 300 calls per hour due to flooding, standing driver and collapsing avenue. Meteorologists described the event of atmospheric bomb formed that warm Mediterranean air cooled it with a cold erect and descended over the central Italy. Hospitals reported on the sharp increase in importance of the bureaus and the minor factories. Businesses, especially cafes and open-air markets, suffered significant losses of the sudden food destroyed supplies to outdoor sitting areas. Farmers to the outskirts and the city also serious losses, and a vineyard and olive groves were destroyed by the storm. Video quickly spread on social media showed hailstorm bouncing off incident capable of the floating landmarks such as the Colosseum, shocking viewers around the world. Tourists caught on the storm described the experiences as apocalyptic. Climate experts warned that such extreme weather events are becoming more frequent in Italy, pointing out the former warmer seas contributed to the strong storm. As the cleanup efforts continue, Rome is telling the financial damage and reflection to the capital vulnerability to sudden climate shock. Rome was thrown into chaos late night when a severe storm hit the Italian capital, bringing torrential rain, violent wind, and widespread flooding that turned historic streets into raging rivers. The violent downpour, which lasted then 2 hours, was described by local meteorological as one of the most intense weather events in the recent years. The storm began shortly after sunset, with the thunder echoing across the ancient city skyline. Within minutes, water flooded the narrow valleys, Trastevere and Tuscany, clogging severe and flooding basements. It looked like apocalypse, said resident Marco Rinaldi. Lighting lit up the Colosseum. Within seconds, the streets disappeared underwater. Emergency services were inundated with more than 1,400 calls rescuing motorists trapped flooded underpasses and helped residents evacuate flooded homes. Public transportation came to a standstill. Subway lines were suspended and several major routes, including Via Appia, were completely impossible. The city mayor Roberto Gualtieri urged calm, but they admitted the Rome's severe system was never designated the storm was intensity. Meteorologists explained that the Mediterranean cyclone, sometimes called the Medicane, formed south of the island, drawing warm, most air from the sea. This is great violent connective storm, the tropical link. Rainfall exceeded 150 mm in just 6 hours. Experts warn that such phenomena are becoming more frequent as sea temperature rise. Sicily Governor Renato Santa called the flooded sacrament of our fragility in the face of extreme weather. He announced that emergency funds are affected multiple to promise to accelerate drainage and infrastructure improvement. The aftermath paints a grim picture. Destroyed cars collapsed, relating walls and entire neighborhoods collided in a mood. Local fishermen in the parts of Mazzara de Vola reported dozens of vessels damaged to surging tides. As cleanup crews walk tirelessly to move across Sicily is one of the explore making their disbelief. We are used to rain, said farmer Salvatore Russo from the Enna, but this is sometimes else entire. With the most storms forecast in the coming days, Italy burst to further disruption. As some margin size to how climate change is reshaping life to the most sun-drenched regions.
Shit!
Ferry service on Naples and Cagliari were suspended due to rough sea. The Sicily team network was shut down after electrical damage on overheat lines. Meteorologists say the storm was followed by the powerful Mediterranean low-pressure system, parts of the growing pattern of Mediterranean, like a storm that resembled tropical cyclones. Temperatures dropped sharply following the storm and held the size of walnuts damaged vehicles and citrus orange in the surrounding countryside. Regional Governor Renato Tuscany called the event wake all of the Sicily, emphasizing the urgent need to improve drainage and fluid difference. We can no longer trend trees to rare incidents. We said they are becoming by new normal. Video circulated online showing people wading through the waist-deep water in Palermo Historic Center, while rescue used inflatable boats to reach stranded residents near the Piazza. Electricity outage and thousands without electricity overnight. The schools were ordered closed and crew cleared debris and restored infrastructure. Climate experts warn that Sicily is one of the dense urban layout and against infrastructure is increasingly exposed to extreme weather linked to global warming. Rome was gripped in the chaos late Tuesday. A violent storm swept across the Italian capital, bringing torrential rain, hail and lightning strikes have plunged the parts of the city in darkness. Within an hour, the storm transformed cobblestone streets into rivers and flooded metro tunnels, leaving the residents stranded in an emergency service stretched within. The Italian Civil Protection Department confirmed over 800 emergency calls overnight. Streets surrounding Piazza Venezia, Termini station in Vatican, were submerged under the half-meter of water. Local media reported dozens of vehicles stranded with the fallen trees, crushed parked cars and blocked tram lines. I felt like the sky was collapsing, said Marco Rinaldi, the resident of Trastevere. The thunder was constant, it shook windows, we had a struggle hitting the roof, I threw the glass would shatter. Meteorologists described the storm as a part of the Mediterranean supercell, feeling the unstably warm sea and the cold wind with the cold front moving south from the Alps. When it reached 19 km per hour, and a hailstorm the size of walnuts battered rooftops and monuments. Dramatic footage circulated online showing lightning strikes near the Coliseum and illumination St. Petersburg sky and the flashing era white. The Tiber rivers were rapidly prompted warning to the residents living along the banks. Rome against infrastructure is not built in such intensify, such Professor Enzo Mariani, a climate analyst from the Super Zen University. This is another reminder that climate change is making extreme weather for more frequent is unpredictable across southern Europe.
Mai visto una roba del genere, guarda!
Late Monday evening, a severe hailstorm hit Rome, surprised residents and covered the ancient streets and the capital with a layer of ice. The sudden storm turned into eternal city, wide, disrupting traffic, damaged cars and causing flash flooding in several areas. Within the minutes, the sky darkened in the sound of hailstorm sound the size of a golf ball, echoing across rooftops, the courtyard. Video posted on social media showed streams of water following down the Spanish steps and vacations marble courtyard, glistening under the layer of ice. It was like an apocalypse, said Elena Rossi, owner of a shop near Piazza Venezia. The hail was so heavy it broke part of our glass canopy. People were running to cover. Emergency services were quickly overwhelmed, responded to more than 400 calls across the city about flooding, fallen trees and damaged cars. Several metro stations were temporarily closed due to water ingress and bases were forced to reroute through the less affected areas. The storm also affected key landmark. Parts of Trastevere and Tuscany were left without power and several hours, where lightning lit up the sky above the Coliseum and St. Peter Basilica, creating dramatic and frightening scenes. Venice, the city of water, was forced yet another violent test of survival. The powerful storm system swept across northern Italy this week, striking Venice with a torrential rain, hurricane-force winds and dramatic flooding that would reinforce over the city's long-term future. Overnight, thunder echoing across the lagoon with the wind gusts tapping 110 km/h, battered the ancient city. The down water level had stretched to 115 centimeters, high enough to submerge much of St. Mark Square and spill into historic buildings. It was a chaos, said resident Marco Rinaldi. The wind was howling and the water was everywhere. We couldn't ever open our door. Authority activated the most flood barrier system, the multi-billion-euro defense designed to protect Venice from high tides. But even this was engineering marvel struggling to contain the ferocity of the storm. Engineers confirmed that several guests shattered minor malfunction, allowing water to seep into vulnerable zone. Local businesses are counting heavy losers. Coffee, art, galleries, and luxury hotels along the Grand Canal were flooded with the hour. Citrus, grove, vineyards, and olive orange in the eastern Sicily were heavily damaged. Farmer Maria Russo near Campania said, "They hail destroyed it weeks in the work in minutes. Our harvest is gone." Local authority estimated preliminary damage in the million of euros. Social media was flooded with the dramatic videos and a hail bouncing of historic buildings. Streets transformed into the city rivers, and the residents helped each other to navigate the flooded areas. Lightning and thunder added to the chaotic scene, with the palm trees and old city was buried the birth of strong wind. Meteorologists warn that the storm-like are becoming more frequent due to climate change. With the increased atmospheric instability across the Mediterranean, Dr. Alessandro Conti, a climate expert, noted, "Warners say a more humid air, the falling storm of unpredictable intensity in the Sicily and across southern Europe. By nightfall, cleanup crews worked to clear debris, restore traffic, and AC structure damage. Residents emergency casually to inspect their constant streets, capturing strikers emerge an ancient Sicily town under the blanket of hail." Meteorologists attribute the storm to a collision between most Mediterranean air and cold floor northern currents, which create conditions to supercell over central Italy. These sudden connective storms can release enormous energy in a very short time, explained Dr. Paolo Rinaldi, meteorologist with the Italian Meteorological Service. The storm also caused significant damage to agriculture in the Lazio region, where vineyards and olive groves were hardest hit heavy hail, causing millions of dollars in damage. According to preliminary estimates, farmers such as Monaco Bianchi near Frascati described the event devastation as it destroyed two entire crews in a matter of minutes. Social media was flooded, with a video showed hailstones bouncing the historic moments, water pouring down the Spanish steps, and the residents wandering the frozen streets. Authority urged people to stay indoors, and emergency service working through the night to clear debris and restore transport. Experts warned that the storm this intensity may become more frequent due to climate change, with the increase in atmospheric instability and contributed to extreme weather events throughout the Mediterranean region. As night fell, Rome was transformed into a surreal scene, and itself monuments glistered under the layer of ice. Streets were littered with the fallen branches and damaged cars, a stark reminder and unpredictable power of nature in the heart of the eternal city.
Madre de Dios. Su, qué desastre. Mira. Ahora mismo en Garachico.
The intensity described as expansional, the combination of warm and shoe-laden air from the Mediterranean Sea and southern cold front from the Alps causing the explosion storm accompanied by hail and intense electrical activity. Major Roberto Girelli declared a state of emergency, mobilized hundreds of municipal workers to clear fallen debris and unblocked roads. Rome drainage infrastructure could not cope with the heat and unbladed to press conference. This storm has once again demonstrated how vulnerability our city is to extreme weather conditions. Public transportation in the capital was severely disrupted. Metro lines A and B were particularly suspended, and trains from Terni station were delayed and several hours due to flooded tracks. Schools in the several districts were closed the following date safety checks. Video posted online showed residents wading through the waist-deep water by stuck in the middle of the streets and hailstones the size of marble Pelton Park car.
Eccoci qua, è arrivata la prima pioggia. Sono spente pure luce alla piazzetta.
Powerful hailstorm swept across Rome on a Monday evening, transforming in the eternal city into surreal winter scene in the middle of autumn. The violent burst of the weather struck without warning, pelting the capital with the ice stones the size of a marble 8 in some era's golf ball. Within the minutes, streets, pieces, and parked cars were buried under the thick layer of ice, forcing traffic and standstill and overwhelming the city drainage systems. It was like a blizzard, said local resident Marco Rinaldi, who was driving near Piazza Venezia where the storm hit. The visibility dropped to zero. People were hooking to pulling over, afraid the wind shift would shatter. Emergency service received hundreds of calls across Rome and nearby towns. Firefighters rushed to clear blocked roads, flooded underpasses, and fallen trees branches. Public transport was temporarily suspended in several districts, where video shared online showed buses tragically through the rivers and a hail of water flowing through the metro entries. Local farmers in the Lazio region reported severe damage on a vineyard and olive grove during accompanied harvest season. Social media flooded with the shocking footage and hail pelting on around Colosseum and Treaty Foundation with the thunder echoing across the sky. Many Romans tragically to hide in their astonishment. It's like the end of the world, said Maria, a shop owner in the Trastevere district. The street turned completely white in the instant. I've never seen anything like that. Experts warn that such extreme weather events are becoming more frequent as the climate patterns in southern Europe shift. We are witnessing the Mediterranean region transformed into a source of violent storm, stated climatologist Elisa Romano. As snow removal crews cleared the ice debris, Rome felt that the aftermath of extreme weather damage and stark reminder of the event of eternal city is not immune to natural fury. The Italian capital, more accustomed by scrolling heat wave, stumbled after exploding hailstorm hit Rome, covering the streets with ice, destroying cars and causing chaos throughout the entire city. What began the heavy rain suddenly intensified into the torrent and hailstorm, larger than the golf ball, battering the city at nearly half an hour. When it means major landmarks such as the Colosseum and Spanish Steps and Villa de Corso was surrounded by the river of ice, while traffic camped complete standstill. It was a winter had arrived violent incident, said Luca Romano, who abandoned her car near the Piazza Venezia. The hailstorm broke in glass if through the roof when going to collapse. Emergency hotline were overwhelmed and firefighters rushed to more than 500 incidents across the capital. Foreign streets crushed vehicles, safe ground windows shattered, and several subway stations were flooded. At least 40 people were treated to injuries mainly caused by broken glass and slippery falls. Hospitals in Trastevere and Taormina reported overcrowded emergency rooms. Coastal town in rural village in Sicily have experienced some of the worst damage. The agriculture sector, which is crucial in the island economy, have been hit hard, with the fields and cars destroyed in the rising waters. Landslides have cut off aces of several mountains region, complicating rescue efforts. The situation remains real, with the emergency crew working around the clock to respond to new incident and then arise. Italy is grappling with a severe flooding after days of relentless rain, particularly affected with the northern region of the country. Torrential downpours have caused rivers to swell, burst their banks, and inundate towns and villages. The latest episode of flooding have left authorities struggling to cope with the growing crisis, with the thousands of people evacuated from their homes. The region of Emilia-Romagna, Lombardy, and Veneto have been among the hardest hit. In Emilia-Romagna, widespread damage to infrastructure have been reported, with the roads submerged, bridges washed away, and homes flooded. Several rivers, including the Po and the Rio, have reached critical levels, forcing emergency services to respond rapidly to prevent further damage. The situation has been compounded by landslides in hilly areas, blocked roads, and isolated communities.